Let's talk about the fastest European citizenships that anyone can obtain. You know, a lot of people like the idea of having an EU passport, but many don't know just how challenging or expensive it can be at times. And so imagine my surprise when a member of the offshore establishment, the purveyors of passports as shiny objects, was recently quoted in a British newspaper saying that Greece, Cyprus, Ireland, and Spain are among the fastest passports in Europe to obtain, when in reality, most of those programs are actually pretty slow. So today, I'm going to set the record straight and talk about fast EU citizenships and what you should expect. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. Here at Nomad Capitalist, we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where they're treated best, from reducing taxes overseas to obtaining second passports. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. And the idea that Greece, Cyprus, Ireland, and Spain are the fastest ways to obtain citizenship in the European Union simply isn't true for most people. Let's go through those four, and then I'm going to share with you the different ways to get European citizenship and how long it can take. You'll choose your own fastest route. So Greece does have a golden visa program. That's a residence, not a citizenship. You can live in Greece. You can live and travel throughout the European Union. Generally, not a great country at naturalizing people unless you're ethnically Greek. And so while I've helped a couple people become or reclaim their Greek citizenship from their ancestors, if you don't have Greek ancestors, probably going to stay at the residence phase no matter how long you live there. And that's in addition to all the taxes you'll pay if you do live there long enough to even apply. Cyprus no longer has a citizenship by investment program for months. This is, unfortunately, you see so many people peddling programs that don't even exist anymore. Cyprus does have a golden visa program, residence by investment. You can go, and if you do live there, yeah, eventually you can get citizenship. I would hardly call it the fastest route. And again, it's not 100% guaranteed. Ireland, not bad if you have Irish ancestry. In that regard, it could be relatively quick, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Spain, otherwise Ireland, nothing particularly quick about it. Spain, unless you are of Hispanic descent, you're going to be waiting potentially a dozen years through that middle of bureaucracy before you see Spanish citizenship. And oh, by the way, on my list of countries that I believe could eventually start getting around to taxing in some form or fashion their citizens who live overseas, Spain would make its way kind of towards the top of my list, quite frankly, among European countries. So let's talk about the different ways you can get citizenship. Because the first thing, if someone comes to me, that I'm going to talk to them about is, do you have ancestors? If you go to someone who sells passports as a commissioned salesperson, they are not going to explain that maybe your aunt or your great-grandmother or your mother or whomever in your family tree can qualify you for a passport for practically free. It's not their business. There's not a lot of money in it. But the first thing I'll do if someone wants an EU passport is I will walk them through that process. Do you have a parent, a grandparent, a great-grandparent? Rarely beyond that. But do you have someone within the family tree that was from a European country? And generally speaking, did they move to where you're from? And was the citizenship line continued to where they retained their citizenship from the country before their next of kin was born, and then that was passed down, and that was passed down? If so, you could go and apply for citizenship. And so Irish, British, we recently had a case in the Baltics that was relatively quick. Those passports can be pretty fast to obtain. On the other hand, sometimes if you can't prove that family tree, you could spend literally years, and I've seen people spend years. In countries like Italy, you could spend years just waiting for your appointment. So it may not be the fastest way to get a citizenship, but compared to going and living in Italy or going and living in Spain, it still might be faster, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper, and it's a heck of a lot less disruptive to your lifestyle. So citizenship by descent, that's the first thing that I'm going to look at. Now, if we're looking for speed, the next thing I'm going to talk about is citizenship by investment. I had a family come to me recently. They earned about $50 million over the course of their lifetime, and they wanted to go and live in Europe. They didn't just want the passport. They wanted the ability to not only travel as Europeans, but to go and live there with some of their children. And so I said, well, the most reliable way where you can just become an EU citizen and then go and live anywhere else you want is through citizenship by investment in Malta. Cyprus, the program that allowed you to invest 2 million euros plus make a donation, that's been suspended. Malta's program recently came back out. It is basically the only program of its kind. You're looking at about $1 million in terms of donation, plus you need to have some kind of home in Malta for 5 years. and there are a number of other little things that you need to check off. But let's call it about $1 million in sunk cost. You will be an EU citizen in a little bit over a year. And then you can choose to live in Malta. Many people don't. They'll choose to go and live in Germany. They'll choose to go and live in Ireland. They'll choose to go and live in Sweden or wherever else. That would be the fastest way for most people to get European Union citizenship because it's a streamlined program. You're not waiting around for bureaucrats at an embassy or in a family archive office somewhere who aren't particularly motivated. They are motivated to collect your donation. They have a streamlined process that moves. There's of course due diligence, and you'll have to go through all that and spend a little bit of time in Malta. But there's a pace to it. And so it's hard to beat that, again, unless maybe you have a really solid, easy-to-prove connection for citizenship from a less bureaucratic country, like in Ireland, like a UK. We've churned those out pretty quickly sometimes for people with ancestry. Again, others could drag out. Beyond that, if you're looking for European citizenship, you're generally going to be looking at naturalization, and that is going and physically being a resident of a country. Now, many European countries are going to require you to actually live there. The Netherlands, Germany, France. You cannot just be a resident of those countries, go back and live in the US, go back and live in China, Australia, whatever, and come and collect your citizenship. One of the few exceptions to that is Portugal's Golden Visa program. It's basically 7 days per year over 5 years, and then you apply for citizenship. And so, call it within 6 years, you can become Portuguese. Now, many of these programs, as with any naturalization program, do require you to have some knowledge of the language. Programs that are more streamlined, like Portugal's, are generally easier to deal with, or they may even eliminate it entirely. But many countries are going to require you to learn the language. So Ireland, which was mentioned, yeah, you can go to Ireland. The entrepreneurial visa programs are much more difficult these days. You can make an investment starting at €1 million in investment funds. You can go and live in Ireland, but you need to live there. And so you're going to be living there for about at least 5 years for most of the time. And in some of these countries, if you live there, you could qualify for a special tax regime, a tax exemption, a tax holiday, whatever the case may be. In some countries, you're just going to be paying full tax. There's a lot of tax planning around living in Europe if you don't want to be paying a lot. But basically, most European Union countries through naturalization, they want you to wait at least 5 years. Some want you to wait substantially more. And it was up until the early to mid-2010s when in Belgium it was 3 years. My thought is that the EU basically got together and said, you know what, this 3-year stuff isn't good. Everyone's going to be 5 years and up. And now I don't believe there's a single EU country where you can be naturalized in less than 5 years. A place like Portugal makes it easy on your lifestyle in exchange for an investment, but then you're committing cash. And so the question is 6 years in Portugal better than 1 year in Malta in exchange for the lower investment? Now, if you are the family with 50 million or 100 million or maybe even less, the one exception is exactly what I suggested to former Google CEO Eric Schmidt in one of our videos. I did not personally advise him of this, but I made a video talking about it where I said when it came out that he was one of the last people to get Cypriot citizenship by investment, I said that my suggestion to him would be going to one of these countries and saying, I used to run Google, you might have heard of it, and now I'm working on my next venture and I can bring 100 jobs or 500 jobs or 1,000 jobs plus all the cachet of my coming here. I'll do that in your country if you give me citizenship, and you can work your way up through the ministers. Different European countries have different objectives, and they have over the years. Some governments are more open to it, some are not. And so, potentially, if you have a great idea, if you can bring cachet, that's one way to do it quickly. I still think that in the European Union, it's not going to be any faster than Malta. And so unless you've really got something that you really want to bring to the table and you're eager to save that $1 million in costs, then probably better just to go through Malta or just suck it up and wait. And so if you don't have that ancestry and you're not willing to make a substantial investment, Europe has taken a stand, by and large, both as independent countries, and the EU Parliament often complains about, they don't just want anyone to become an EU citizen. There may come a time when none of these fast track or easy options are available anymore because the politicians take over and say it's just not European enough. So you've got a couple options to not have to substantially change your lifestyle, but it's going to cost you. If you're looking for a fast track to European citizenship in any legal way, without ancestry, it's going to take you a while. And so there's no fastest way. What I would tell you is, do you need EU citizenship? Do you need to be a citizen of an EU country? Would a residence permit suffice? Can you accomplish your same goals being a dual citizen of another country, perhaps in the Caribbean, where you can get citizenship in a matter of months, perhaps in another place where you have ancestry, perhaps through a paper residence program somewhere else where it could take 2 or 3 years to be naturalized without lifestyle changes? These are all the questions that you have to ask yourself if you want to get the fastest citizenship. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.